guys, it's me, Sugar, and I'm here with my husband, Jeff.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about the new season. It's that time of the season to talk about the new season, am I right?
It's the season for season, talking seasons with some seasonings.
I tried to use it as much as I could.
You know me, I love my alliteration and repetition of sounds and whatnot, so what can I say? It tickled my fancy.
It tickled my fancy. Anywho, summer 2019, we're in the meat of it now. Let's start with our first one. Are You Lost? I can say probably the one I'm most dissatisfied by. I thought it was
fair. It's exactly what they kind of promised in their trailers and stuff like that.
I don't think so. It came off as more of a comedy / maybe fan service, where most of it is just fan service with the odd facts smattered in to make it be like, look, we're trying.
That is what it is. Every episode thus far has made me at least smirk and smile, and I'm always like, oh yeah, like that's a cool survival,
or else something
tip.
Like really gross, and
yeah,
I'm like,
and then someone will just be like, ugh. So it is pretty much exactly what I thought, with a little more fan service.
Yeah. I can say the good thing is that it's 13 instead of 23 minutes.
True.
So it saves me that way.
Well, it's going to save us, I think, is that we're probably not going to continue with it. So.
I was about to say, otherwise it's not that great. Long story short, these girls are on a plane. The plane crashes on an island, and they are forced to survive. And
it doesn't crash on the island.
It
crashes off an island, and they eventually swim to that island.
They make their way to the island because they crash into the water. So yeah, doesn't have a lot of substance. The story has been told before. It's more so fan service and gross stuff rather than it being like, Yuru camp or something.
That's the thing. It could have been like a Yuru camp sort of thing, but just with survival elements as opposed to the more like comf camping that they do in Yuru camp.
Yeah.
But no, instead they went for the more let's have some fan service shots, and let's have them in various states of undress.
Mm-hmm.
And they're exhausted, so they like pass out on the ground, and you can basically get a panty shot and stuff like that. It's like, you could just make something that's interesting and factual about survival. Granted, I'm a weirdo, and I love a show called Survivor Man, and it's literally...
Well, Survivor Man is legit. He gives you actual facts, and you're like, worst case scenario, if I ever do get fucked over, that's good to know. Even though, like, watching you do it is kind of gross, but it's necessary to live. Where this is like, hey, random fact, and another reason for her to take off her panties. It's like...
Yeah, the urine stuff is a little much. 2 episodes in, and we've already had both episodes involved with urine, which... I know it's
it's not like a urine, like as in like peeing, but in like pee on her face, and it's like
because it's
because again, survival.
That was the other dude. What's his name? Who he always had to drink his own urine.
Yeah. I was thinking of the one that Aaron Hansen did, the Bear Grylls.
That is his name. It's Bear Grylls.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
The one I was thinking, the one that Aaron always makes a parody of.
That is Bear Grylls. So I get that it's also like a meme, and I mean it's like a 10-year-old meme at this point, but still
funny.
You could mention it once, and that would be enough. But obviously, it's like it's fan servicey, and fan service has to be done in just the right way with me. Otherwise, it just turns me off completely.
I like it when it's like, I'm not somebody who's like,
Fairy
oh
tale.
God, fan service, I can't handle it. Like fairy tale, yeah, where the most of it is like the shonen seriousness, great characters, and it's smattered in. I can handle it when it's smattered in, like in Konosuba. It's so ridiculous, it's funny, and having all that stuff there, it's just like, sure.
Yeah.
Trying to think of a couple other like ones I can think of, like, oh yeah, fan service, and I still liked it.
Avatar has the beach episode that had some fan service in it too, and I mean that was...
Well, that was just an episode, not like smatterings throughout.
And it's a beach episode.
I think every anime gets one most, yeah. I was about to say, even like Ouran Host Club, you got like you haven't got... I'm not going to say anything. Never mind. I was about to say something about another anime, and I was like, oh, never mind.
I probably know what anime you're talking about.
So they happen quite a bit. It's an ongoing trope. So, anyways, not much to say Not worth your time. Let's go to the next one that is worth your time, which is Astra Lost in Space. I've really been enjoying it. Really great. Just to give you a basic premise, we have a group of kids that are going quote-unquote camping. This is the future, where they go out to this planet. They're supposed to be left there without adults. Already, huge red flag. And then something happens where they end up getting stranded in space, and they have to find their way home. And that's all I really want to say, because it's really good.
It is. It's been very good so far. They have a nice... all the characters are very well defined. Mm-hmm. They're tropes, but at the same time, they kind of subvert the tropes as well. So that it's really enjoyable to kind of see here's the hot-headed one who just jumps in, but then it gives you the reasons why he's like that, and that he does actually think things through, and that he's reacting because you either react or people die. Yeah. And it's okay, so you're not just this hot-blooded, I could do anything. And that, he's actually, he's I'm terrified all the time. But if you don't react, if you don't act, people die. Things happen.
And the first episode was a longer episode, which is great. Kind of got us introduced to our characters and the situation that we're in. And I really like that. I would like to say that for most people, that if you like Voltron, I feel like you would like this. There's a lot of things that are similar.
It's almost in a way feels a little Star Trek-y as well and stuff like that.
Like a lot of old school kind of ideas.
Yeah, not necessarily space opera. I wouldn't go like that.
No.
It's not going to give you the vibes of something like, a Firefly or things like that.
No.
But it definitely... Great characters, a really intriguing premise. Immediately, there was mystery and intrigue, and the characters called it out immediately. The first thing that I was thinking when this situation happened, and we were we were sent to, again, a little bit of backstory. The planet they were sent to is actually a nature preserve. And so the idea, as they were told anyways, is hey, it's a nature preserve, you're just going to be there to camp, nothing is
super serious.
Yeah, nothing is going on there. They don't even have predators on the planet, stuff like that.
I don't remember the predators part, but yeah.
They said that it was designed to be okay for
it was designed to be
around.
Okie dokie, yeah.
And also an older woman meets up with one of the characters at their spaceport or whatever before they leave, and she even talks about how she's
oh yeah,
you're
I
going
went
camping
there
with him.
Yeah.
I did too. It was great. We had such a good time.
Yeah, I did that when I was younger. It's a coming of age thing.
And then some stuff happens, and the first thought, which is what you and I were both thinking, we're what if this is all part of a test? The adults sent them here and made stuff happen on purpose, and then immediately two of the other characters were
well, no, that doesn't make sense.
That wouldn't make sense.
And don't say why. Yeah, don't say why.
It just wouldn't have happened that way. So it's nice that
they're thinking through what we think, and then also other things where it's well, why would it be this way? Why would this, why would we stumble upon this? Why would this happen? And I like that it's reasoning out loud instead of it being internal. And then a few episodes later,
talk to each other, which is great.
Yeah, and that's hey, I have this suspicion that blank, we should talk about it. Instead of you're always screaming at the TV. It's talk, say something, anything.
Yeah. No internal monologue.
Yeah,
please.
And so thankfully, most people wish that they talk it out and say something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And it's been really good.
It has. It one of the things that will annoy me sometimes with space type anime and shows in general is if they go too far into the fantastical, where basically it's oh yeah, you've landed on this weird planet and none of it makes sense from what we know about science. This is the perfect mix where they land on another planet and things look like they represent something that would actually be feasible on a planet that could actually sustain life,
right,
that we know of anyways. So it isn't they land on this planet and suddenly the sky is magenta and all of the plants are a deep blue and they emit this new element that we don't know exists. Nothing like that has happened. It's been
well, there's been some stuff they don't understand, but that's because these places aren't. We'll leave it at that, because I was about to say we're going to start spoiling stuff.
Realistic, as opposed to a lot of other shows, which would just give themselves license to be like, it's a new planet, we can do whatever we want. It's like, well, no, like, based on our scientific knowledge, like, certain things have to happen in order for life as we know it to, start up. My only issue, and I said this after the first episode, was like, oh, it's only scheduled for 12, and I definitely know that I'll want more.
Yeah, but it can't... Oh, dear. We know it can't be helped. So either way, I think it'll be really good. I'm really excited. I hope it gets another season. It might be wrapped up this season. I don't know. But really looking forward to it. For me personally, definitely top 3 this season.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's move on. So the next one is Carole and Tuesday, and that's a continuing anime. And it's been, I'd say, continuing on as it has been. Animation, the music's been great. Everything's been good. Story's been good.
Mm-hmm. I love the natural progression that has happened.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like I still know where it's going to go, but we'll see. Yeah. But nothing's wrong with that.
We have an idea of where it's going. I mean, first of all, every single episode tells you where it's, what certain event is going to come up. But otherwise, like, it...
I don't mean just that. Yeah. I mean, like, based on different things that have happened.
Yeah, well, that's because it is...
Because I watched too much.
No. It does an excellent job of capturing what popular culture and the music industry is like right now. So that's why you have a feeling of where it's going to go, because we've seen it play out in reality already, this sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it has stuck with that really well, where everything feels relatable. It feels like a natural progression of the music industry, of what society would be like. And now it's progressing past, even that point where, it's just been excellent. It has always been very good. Yes, I feel one character was a bit of a... In a series where everybody has been likable, or at least understandable in how they react, there was a character who became pretty important who just was kind of bizarre. I didn't feel like it made a lot of sense to put it in there. I get what they were going for. You said in the last podcast you also did, but it made you feel like kind of uncomfortable.
Sorry?
The character who feels like they didn't belong.
Sibel?
Yeah.
You can say her name.
It's
not like Beetlejuice.
I don't want... You were talking in Astra. You're like, I don't want any spoilers. I don't want nothing. I'm like,
well, because Astra's just starting, so the more you tell, the more it kind of gives away. Whereas Sibel is like just a character. It's not spoiling anything. Whereas with the planets and stuff, like, things that you can say can spoil what's going on. It's so little content that we're dealing with. That's why I said no spoilers. As for, like, just names and stuff, that doesn't mean anything to anybody who's not watching.
But you should
Unless you're like, blank died, and I'm like, dude, nobody died. So
I can kind of relate to, there's been a lot of people who, because they see that Netflix is associated, they're like, I'm just going to wait for it all to be on Netflix.
Which is fair.
I'm going to wait for the dub, because basically everything that he has done, the dub has been... if not equal to, better than the Japanese. So it's like, I get that. We just obviously like being part of the zeitgeist, like being part of the discussion. And
part of what I do, obviously, now. So.
I mean, Carole and Tuesday has been awesome. I don't think you can
really good.
suspect that it will be anything less.
Still really catchy music, which drives me crazy, because I don't know how that's possible. But it's good. It looks like different artists, because at the end of most episodes, we'll stop and look and see who's singing. Yeah. So, it's really good. I don't know what else to say. It's very on the nose in the sense of what's going on, pop culture-wise. And really, I don't know if we have to say much more, because we've talked about it before. Yeah. So, still good. Watch it if you haven't. And next one is Copcraft. And Jeff hasn't seen this, and... I'm not sure if I'll continue watching it or not. I still haven't made up my mind. Long story short, it's this city. It's very noir. We have our main character, obviously destructive, into that noir kind of category, all the stuff you'd think about. Gritty crime, prostitutes, murder, drugs. And something happens, and over kind of like in the Pacific, they have a gate that opens up to another world. Don't worry, it's not an isekai. And, you know, they have to collaborate with somebody else that's from the other side and work together to figure out this crime that's currently going on. And, you know, normally I'd be sold easily on just it being a noir, but with the kind of fantasy character working with him, it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. Like I said, I'm still not sure if I'm sold. I'll keep watching. I think I've only snuck in the first episode, where other ones I've had a chance to get, you know, 2 or 3. But I'll see how it goes. We'll probably have a mid-season again, like we usually do. And then I can explain, if not, for some reason we don't have a mid-season at the end, I'll explain why I did or didn't continue it. But just that noir aspect in itself keeps me captivated. So we'll see. But for right now, that's kind of where it's at. And it's, yeah. And of course, Jeff can't chime in on what his thoughts are because he hasn't watched it. But those are kind of my thoughts for now and the basic of what it's about. So
the trailer I saw, I was like, wow, a film noir cop procedural. Okay.
Yeah, so it is what it is. We'll see. But let's move on. So the next one we have is Dr. Stone. And so a lot of people were talking about it. I purposefully didn't read any of the manga. I didn't really want to know because I've already gotten to a point now where I don't know much about it in the first place. And a bunch of people, excuse me, a bunch of people I know who read the manga said they've enjoyed it so far. So far it's been pretty good. Like, for me personally, it's like coming into it fresh. So like animation-wise, it looks really good. Everything looks good. You know, everything's pretty solid. The voice acting. The only thing is just kind of like, okay, everyone turns to stone, which obvious, the name. And then they figure out how they should try and get back to life, because a couple people wake up early, and then other people are in stone. And then right away, I just find it kind of interesting that the first person that wakes up after our 2 main characters is like right away, like, I have different views than you, blah, 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 you know, and his view doesn't hold a lot of sense for me, just because I think through things like really detailed, and it doesn't make a lot of sense for me, his perspective.
Well, it's been early, and it's already been hinted at why he has these thoughts in his head.
Oh, it's fine that he has these thoughts, because obviously I know people who would have these thoughts. It just doesn't merit, like, being followed up on, because there's a lot of problems with that thought.
I mean, to an extent, but we're talking about like, the world is over as you know it. Like, everything has changed. So I think that his sort of mindset, the way that he is approaching it, is like, we literally have a chance to create and formulate a world that reflects what we want. Yeah,
so quick thing, doesn't spoil anything. We have our main character who obviously wants to bring back the world back to, like, you know, the industrial period, go back and kind of get us back to our main base. While the other person, I shouldn't say the other person, the third person to wake up, as far as we've seen, basically wants the world to be more about the youth, because the older people are more about rules and being more, you know, clinging to old aspects of life, like taxes, land, property, things like that. And so his idea is not to wake up the adults and just take the younger ones. But to me, that idea is flawed, but like, there's nothing wrong with the show because of it. I just haven't found a lot to grasp onto to be like, oh, this will be awesome. I just know everyone thinks it's awesome because of the manga, and I assume it will be awesome because everyone's read it. But otherwise, if I'd just been watching, I'd be like, meh, you know.
Well, I like it maybe a little bit more than that, but it's...
Because, like, our main character so far, it says, like, it's exhilarating, like, 3 or 4 times in, like, the first episode, I think. He says it a couple times at least. And, you know... otherwise, I like the aspect of science, because obviously we're teachers, and that part's really cool and interesting. But to me, so far, it's kind of like, okay. Like, if I had not known it was good, I don't know if I had been like, oh, definitely watching this.
I mean, I think that the performances have been really good so far. Yes, they're kind of tropey in the sense that every character seems to have, like, oh, I have this catchphrase that I say all the time. The smart guy talks about 1,000,000,000% when he's, like, assured.
Yeah, everything is 10 billion percent or something.
10 billion %, or, you know, if he's not sure, it's, you know, like, 99%, whatever. Like, that's the way that he is.
I don't remember the 99%.
And then our kind of brawny guy, he is...
all brawn.
Yeah, he's all brawn. But he freely admits it. He's like, if you need some thinking done, ask him instead. Yeah. And stuff like that.
So we got, like, the nerd, the brawn, and the killer.
the brawler, I guess.
The brawler,
that sort of thing. I think it has a lot of promise moving forward.
Well, I know it has promise because people have told me it's great, but if I had just seen it for what it was, I'd be like, maybe it could be good. Like, and no, I'm not shitting on Dr. Stone. I'm just saying from a perspective of if I didn't know the manga existed, if it hadn't existed, if it was just going from this perspective, I'd be like, yeah, maybe.
I would have said it's a very interesting premise that I like quite a bit, and I like the characters so far. Definitely adding in that third character right away adds kind of a layer of intrigue, and you can already tell that there's probably going to be conflict between them at some point. So but at the same point, they kind of all need each other. So I like that dynamic quite a bit.
I find it funny though, like the second I was like, I laughed so hard. It was when the third character was brought about, and then there's a point where he's quote unquote sleeping and he's awake. I was like, Lord of the Flies starts now. Where all the youth will be up and they'll just murder each other.
That's the thing, though, and I think they're fairly aware of that. Where both of them are. I
think they're both waiting for that point where they don't need each other. Then they'll just start murdering each other. But I don't know. I don't purposely stayed away from the manga. So.
And the thing is, like, we make this third character sound like, oh wow, like
he's not a terrible person. He's just, well, as far as we've seen, he's just kind of the generic, like, good-looking, great at sports, has conflicting ideologies, put it that way.
But I mean, at the same point, our sciencey dude, he's also like very extreme in his beliefs.
Well, I wouldn't say he's extreme. He's just a sense of he's all about science. So why would you go back if you can go forward? That's just the role of somebody who likes science. That's just like everything to him. That's who he is.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. Is I think that's an extreme too. He doesn't seem to.
Well, obviously, these are all the extremes for each of them. Like one is exactly science, does science, he has E equals MC squared on his, like just the total.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say stereotypical, but like if you had a stamp and like definitely like all the things that indicate that he likes science.
Plus, he's got Yu-Gi-Oh hair.
Yeah, he has the wicked Yu-Gi-Oh hair. And our brawny guy, obviously, he says stupid crap, but he's incredibly strong, so he does all the brunt of stuff. And then the third guy is obviously really strong and just kind of skilled at being the kind of jock in school who's good at everything, not obviously science, but, hunting, fishing, javelin, fighting, all that stuff that takes a lot of oof.
Yeah. He's a brawler. Our brawny guy, he's about endurance. Apparently, he can just...
There you go. Intelligence, stamina, athleticism.
Yeah, but I think it's maybe a little. I don't think you're giving the sciencey character enough of a due of the fact that he's also very extreme and not necessarily in a positive way either.
I don't know what you mean then.
He comes across to me like somebody who will put science forward even if it means like he. Not a big spoiler because everybody's turned to stone. He's the one who discovered, oh, by the way, if you destroy them as a stone statue and try to put them back together, that doesn't work. And he just laughed about it. Well, that's where I think it's going. Is that he's going to be, I'm going to push science forward, even if it means that I have to... But
that's science. You have to test things for it to be proven true.
So
it's a hypothesis. That's the whole thing of science. And if you have to check if it's true, you lose one sample out of the million.
I'm just saying is that he's going to care more about science than about people. And I think
obviously.
That's
but not to their detriment. I don't think so. We'll see. I don't think so. Let's move on. Okay, the next one is Fire Force. And I was surprised because initially, of course, I'm sure if you listened to our last podcast, I was like overly skeptical. Just because the premise seemed, I don't know what I want to say. I don't want to say jokey, but it seemed kind of like, if you read it, just like, I'm horrible for reading like a synopsis and being like, oh, this will be garbage. And like, if I see the poster or some sort of like form of like a trailer, I'm like, okay, I'm on board. That's kind of the deal. I saw the synopsis and like I think the tiniest teaser and I'm like, this is going to be stupid. But no, it's been really good, actually. I didn't realize until Jeff told me, because I was like, as soon as we were watching it, I was like, he looks just like the guy from Soul Eater. He's like, the guy who did Soul Eater did this. I was like, well, shit.
Yeah, Shigeru's not the biggest fan of Soul Eater, which, I mean...
It wasn't the design, though, thankfully. It was just the fact that it was the story. Once somebody told me how the story went and what happened in the end, I had no interest in watching it. The art, though, is unique, which I obviously spotted right away, so I don't have a huge problem with that. It's just the fact of what I found out about Soul Eater. But anyways, I'm not going to say what it is in case you haven't watched it. But it's been really enjoyable. The animation's been good. The opener's super catchy. Yeah, Jeff.
The animation is excellent. It's difficult to animate fire in a way that makes it that gives it its proper due. A lot of times, here's some orange clouds, or it doesn't look as both terrifying and yet beautiful as fire is. And Fire Force does an excellent job of that, which, I mean, it should. You're literally fighting fire with fire, or plasma or whatnot. But I definitely wasn't anticipating it getting as heavy as it does.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that we do have characters who are like, hey, I can control fire. I can do all sorts of awesome stuff. I'm going to be this, heroic figure. And it's the leader of their fire force, which is remember, literally these are human beings who have turned into fire creatures. They're called infernals. He's like, we tell ourselves well, they're in pain. We want them to shuffle off, off of this mortal coil in a positive way. He's like,
yeah, we're putting them to rest. He's like, but really, we're killing them.
He's like, we're killing them.
Yeah.
And everybody who is left behind has to deal with that.
Right.
And he's like, don't go in there being like, I'm a hero who is killing a villain. You are a person who is, doing something that they have to do because Infernals inevitably kind of lose control and then
burn everything.
They burn everything down. So it's you have to, but he's like, don't take pleasure in dispatching a villain. This is a human being who
had a family.
They had a family, or they and that's the thing too, is that they don't know why this is happening. They don't know why people are spontaneously combusting. We don't understand what's going on. He's like, basically, you're walking up to people who have had some sort of terrible, almost like a medical condition, and you're like, well, don't inflate it to the point where you are a hero dispatching a villain. You are a doctor who is putting somebody out of their misery. Don't go in there being, the hero.
And obviously they're firefighters, and I like their design. Jeff really liked it too. Is that they have the blue wraps around their outfits, and it really glows, especially when they're in the fire, and it's very appealing. And I love the designs they have.
Yeah. And I love the fact that our main character is somebody, who can literally create fire and whatnot, and uses that, and it's very flashy. Gets his ass kicked by somebody who just was
who's a pyro type,
who can manipulate flames. They can't make them, they can manipulate them. And then the main leader, he doesn't have any powers, so he's like, I carry around 30 kilos of equipment.
Yeah.
I have a fire axe. I have all these sorts of things. And then it showed in the second episode, he's also just the toughest piece of man meat ever.
He works out a lot.
And so everybody kind of has their position. Everybody has these different abilities which make them just as qualified to be part of this. Because I could see it going into an escalation issue later on, where if you don't have the ability either to manifest or control fire, you're basically useless.
Yeah.
And it's no, they're making sure right away you understand that just because you don't have powers doesn't mean that you're useless at this. You gotta have.
You just have to have the right tools.
Yeah, you gotta have people who are just the right frame of mind and are willing to do what the job needs them to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just been beautifully animated. The dub and the sub are coming out at the same time. We've been watching the dub, and it's been well acted thus far. The Infernals are very well. I could see them. My worry would have been that while you're dealing with fire creatures, you can make them all look very similar. You can have designs that just, here's a flame creature. Here's another one that's a slightly different sort of shape. But they've gone to great lengths thus far to show, like, to reflect the human being that's behind it as well. And so then when something showed up that looked very different to the captain, he was like, I don't know what that is, but that doesn't...
That's bad.
That doesn't look like an infernal. He's like, that looks like something else. I don't see the human reflected in that. He's like, I have no idea what that was.
Right.
And so immediately they're putting to rest a lot of the worries that I could have had about it. It's been really, really good so far.
Yeah, like Jeff is talking about Maki, and she controls fire, and I really like adding on to what he says. Like, she can make and take away fire, but she can also make, like, almost like personified fire, so they have, like, names and emotions, and it's really interesting. It kind of reminded me of Ghibli, quite honestly. Not in, like, the sense of artwork or quality in that sense, but just the fact of it, just, like, these seemingly innocuous things having a personality is funny to me and cute. And so she treats them like pets, pets or friends, and then obviously gets commonly distinguished, and she gets, like, upset.
I mean,
which is fire, really funny. Yeah. Well, it's still funny, but yeah, absolutely.
And they've got very good cast thus far.
Yeah.
We have, I think, just enough. There's been just enough, like, kind of melodrama and the tragic backstory to make you feel more for the main character without it being, like, maudlin, without it being like, woe is me. It's like, no, I see what has now driven you to this point of wanting to be on the Fire Force. Cool.
Yeah. Initially, I was a little bit worried because when they did flashbacks of the kid form of our main character, the voice acting was real bad.
Yeah. Well, for the English, we don't know. For the English,
yeah. And then for when I went back to him, like the more grown up one, I was like, yeah, Todd Havercorn.
It's Todd Havercorn.
I love his voice.
It definitely has some inspiration from, like, as we were watching it, we were like, this feels a little like Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, there's some parts where I was like, wow, that feels like Full Metal. Wow, that feels like Naruto. Wow, that feels like blank. There's so many things.
At this point, it's lots of people have talked about how anime is like any medium where you can see the influence of what was popular before it, and so. And
there's nothing bad about that. It's just something you notice.
That's the same thing with what was it? That
Black
was
Clover.
No, the one that I actually
My Hero Academia.
More. The one with the magicians.
The magicians.
Yeah.
Black Butler?
No.
That's not a magician.
No. It was just out recently. It just had 21 episodes. I wasn't the biggest fan at the start. It was very X-Men-ish.
Can you tell me the X-Men-ish? Tell me what happens.
Our main character is Seth.
I said Black Clover.
That's not Black Clover.
Yes, it did.
Seth.
Oh!
Yes. Does it start with a D?
It's not Black Clover. It's begins with a B, right? Radiant. Radiant.
Yeah.
It starts with a B. It's Radiant.
Why I brought up Radiant is the fact that Radiant feels very much inspired by some of the elements of Naruto. It feels very...
It is true.
And so seeing Fire Force coming out as I think the manga has been out for a couple of years now or something like that, but...
I don't know why my mind went to Black Butter.
Don't know.
You haven't even watched it.
But having something being put out in like 2016 or 2017, being influenced by Naruto and Full Metal Alchemist, like, of course it is.
Well, of course. And nothing's bad about
fine.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like, I'm pretty sure in the next few years, we're going to see some stuff that's inspired by Made in Abyss.
Oh,
we're going to see more, maybe, that will try to replicate some of the stuff that Antarctica did. Like, all of these exceptionally well-crafted anime that were, I think fairly popular, or at least critically were acclaimed. Now, 5 years down the road, we're going to see all the creators who are like, this is inspiring me to tell a story, and that story is going to be, inspired by and kind of reflect some of those ideals.
I think Fire Force's manga was 2015.
Yeah.
So
I mean, by that point, Naruto was almost done. Full Metal Alchemist was done. So, and again, it's created by a guy who's also made it an exceptionally successful shonen and Soul Eater. So you take some of the DNA from Soul Eater, you toss in some Naruto and Full Metal Alchemist, and then you get Fire Force, and it's like, well, that's pretty damn
Whereas,
cool.
like, you showed me, like, the creator of Fairy Tail, you showed me his new manga, I was like, wow, it looks just like Fairy Tail. I was like, why even quit Fairy Tail?
The very first page was like, look, it's a dragon, and then it was
turned
like,
a couple pages, I was like, and Lucy, but not Lucy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like, why don't you just create more Fairy Tail, dang it? That seems like what you want to do.
I love Fairy Tail.
He wants Fairy Tail in space, I think, is what it is. But
I mean, he could just shift it.
That's true. Fire Force is just, it's been very good.
Yeah.
And in a season that has a lot of, like, it feels like eight between, 8 and 9s, Fire Force could come out of that maybe as almost the best.
Who knows? We'll have to see. Near the end here, we have a couple contenders, some definites. Definitely. So we'll have to wait and see. But let's talk about the next one I love, which is Fruits Basket. Continuing. So happy.
Yes.
I'm just so happy. I love the show, so watching it and seeing Jeff watch it and me knowing what's coming, I'm like, oh yeah. And Jeff's just like, what's coming? I was like, you'll see.
I don't ever want spoilers, but I'm just like...
Oh, there's the odd time where you're like, what? What was the point of that? And I was like,
I'm not actually asking you.
Yeah, Jeff does these things where he poses questions aloud, and I've just learned not to answer him because he doesn't actually mean it.
No,
I spoiled things for him accidentally, not knowing he wasn't literally asking me.
I externalize my inner monologue. What? What's the...
So I remember years ago, funny little story about us. I don't remember what game it was.
Valkyria Chronicles.
I was about to say, I was like, I think that's what it was, but I can't remember. I was sitting on the couch reading a book, and then Jeff was playing, and he voiced some question. He's like, I wonder why blank are doing blank. So I pulled out my phone, looked up the answer, and I was like, well, because blank. He's like, why in the hell would you tell me? I said, because you asked me. He said, no, I didn't.
I wasn't asking you to get the answer. It was me, again. It's something that Sugar has noticed, and of course I noticed it too, because we went to university at the same time. I tend to externalize my internal mind. So, like, Sugar will watch me as I'm writing a final or something, and I'm literally talking to myself. And not only am I talking to myself, I talk with my hands.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, I'll put my pen down, and I will, like, embellish, or I'll flourish with my hands, because that's just the way that helps me to say what I want to say, and thus write what I want to say. Yeah, I do it all the time. Yeah. And so that's just, it's something that I'll do too, where I will just be like, I wonder why that's happening. Not in a way that makes me want the answer, but more just thinking out what
And I'm very straightforward. It's like, well, they're asking me obviously because they want the answer, so I'll just tell them.
No, I would have been like, Sugar. I mean, I'll call you by your actual name, but Sugar. What about blank? If I'm just like, I wonder what this is. It's sometimes just rhetorical.
Yeah, sometimes. But it's been really good. I really enjoy that it's being remade and it's been done well.
It is very good. The only thing that I don't like is the fact, and this is obviously it's purposeful, and that's just what the series is about. Is
I'm sure I know what you're about to say.
A whole bunch of characters are jerks. But
you'll see,
and I don't. And again, this is something that it probably has to do with the backstory, which we'll hear about, and the fact that the weird curse that they live under.
This is stuff that Jeff brings up, and I'm like, I can't tell you.
Yeah. But it's like, why would you give two hoots about this person who's supposed to be the head of your family when they're an abusive piece of crap?
And I can't answer that.
I know. It's going to give me an answer, but at this point right now, the head of this family, I just want them to meet Truck-kun, and Truck-kun can show them what being a dickhead means to Truck-kun. That's what I want to have happen.
You haven't even seen the worst of Akito yet, so get ready for that fun.
No, Akito's a jerk. And then, one of my favorite characters wanting to... basically, when he comes out and he admits where he's like, he's adorable and I love him, but then he basically admits to well, yeah, I'm manipulating everybody and everything to get what I want. I'm like, no! Why you gotta be like that?
Yeah.
No! That's the thing, is Akito as a character, I think, turns the rest of them into jackasses. And I don't like that. And then my worry is that our sweet and noble main character yes, obviously the end point is going to be that she is the catalyst for Akito to no longer be a jackass. Mm. But something real bad's going to happen to her, and I'm going to be real mad. No. Don't you do this to me. That's bull. And that's the only thing that I don't like. But obviously it means that I'm invested in the characters and the storyline, so they're doing a good job.
Yeah. I'm glad that Christopher Sabat got in on it again, so...
I guess you would be able to talk about, like, because I didn't watch the original. Mm-hmm. Is this better than the original?
Yes.
Like, in every way?
I would say so, yes, because obviously the animation is a ton better. Mm-hmm. The music's been really great. The intro and outro, a lot of people have been complaining about, but, you know, the original was pretty...
The second season one wasn't great.
Yeah, the original was...
The second opener for the first season, excuse me.
The original opener is very simplistic, so, you know, it's a bit different. But they've also made corrections for things that they've decided to do in the first anime, which I feel like they're rectifying, which is nice. They're finally going to have kind of things play out fully. So I'm really excited, and it's been really good so far, and I've liked the choices they've made. There's been, obviously I'm like this though, is the couple of times where it was like the sad moments could have like really like lingered and hit harder, but I'm okay with it because it was still sad to me. And talking to one of my other friends was like, oh, it still made me cry. I said, okay.
Did the original anime finish the story or no?
It didn't fully finish, let's just say that.
It didn't reflect the manga, because I think the manga was still being written at the time, wasn't it?
We'll talk later when you've watched it all. It's easy to explain when I can be like, yeah, this and this was continued about. So, you'll see.
But yeah, it's been very good. I am invested. I thought that it was going to be more of a comedy than it is. It's definitely, I think, maybe 50-50 between comedy and drama. Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe... I don't know why I conflated it with Ouran, which Ouran is definitely way more of a comedy. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I put those two together. Maybe because... maybe because I think what it is that they aired around similar times, and I think you in particular really enjoyed like both of them. Mm-hmm. And the way that I had them in my mind, I was like, oh, so they're probably fairly similar, because they seem like they... It seems to me that with the first anime, they were maybe trying to push the comedy a little bit, at least in the stuff that I remember seeing for it. But yeah, no, it's definitely more dramatic. Oh yeah,
because Jeff's favorite point, which I'm sure he'll see, is the little snippet there where, Kyo comes downstairs and he's pissed off, and then she's like, I made you breakfast. He's like, shut up!
Shut up, damn it! And I think it like breaks the table or something, or throws the meal or something like that. And I was like, okay, that definitely seems more comedy based.
And there are some funny moments which he has seen. So
oh, yeah. I want to watch to the end, and we will enjoy it. And the dub has been very good. It's being simulcast, so we're not like behind anything. Mm-hmm. I know we will purposefully stay behind if we have to on My Hero Academia because we like the dub so much.
They might be simulcast though in October.
They usually do it for like the first 8 to 10 episodes, and then it seems like the English takes 2 weeks off and the Japanese keeps going.
So yes, to give you kind of an idea, Ouran was 2006, Fruits Basket was 2001, mm-hmm. and then the manga. Oh wait, I'm thinking of the Ouran for Fruits Basket. Oh, I have to think now because I have it. Whoop. I have it. I used to have the full collection of Fruits Basket, but I lost it when I moved. Don't remember why, but it just happened. The manga, because I read the entirety, is 1998 to 2006. So that tells you a good chunk. Yeah. So without telling you the specifics. Yeah. So it's going to be, can I say, this version will have all of it.
That's
not
good.
Just a good chunk of it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So that's what people always wanted, it was for it to be officially finished in the anime form. So yeah. So Fruits Basket has been great. I'm glad Jeff, being kind of a newbie to it, is really enjoying it, especially since the first one wasn't really hitting home with him so much animation-wise, so this new animation
I also really didn't like her voice actress in the first one. I don't know, I just remember watching it and I was like,
yeah, I remember Jeff just did not like it. Some reason he likes this new one, which is pretty similar to me, but as long as he likes it, that's half the battle, so...
And enjoyment is half the battle.
For some things. So let's move on. So our next one is Maidens of the Savage Season, basically about a literary club doing books, reading books together, and then suddenly realizing that, they're kind of at that age where they want to think about having sex. And that's basically the show so far.
It seems, immediately my first thought was, like, the what they were reading seems to be referencing, like 50 Shades, which it wouldn't surprise me to have something like that be referenced now. Like, the creation process takes some time. 50 Shades was a big deal, let's say, 3 to 4 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
So you can make that leap where, okay, like this influenced by a whole, bunch of people starting to read, I don't know, erotica, if you want to call it that. And then translating that into like, these kids are these teenagers are reading for their book club, like some erotica, and it opens up kind of their mind to all these sorts of things. So it seems oddly somewhat realistic.
Kinda. I think the one is very stereotypical, being super angsty, and you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, it's okay. I wouldn't say it's anything to kind of like, you have to watch it. I think the only reason it got a lot of notoriety, quite honestly, is it made its rounds on Reddit with a masturbation gif, put it that way. And that made its rounds, and that's how people became more so aware of it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it seems very kind of that awkward time in your teens where it's kind of like things are changing. You're thinking
Sexual awakening.
You're thinking about sex. It's that awkward time, of knowing yourself and all that other crap. So, I don't know. It seems okay. It's very meh to me.
It's going to be...
It's okay. That's the best I can give it.
6.5 to 7. And I mean, that's fine. You don't have to always, shoot for the moon or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And given the premise, I don't think that there was a way that you could have really made it something that was going to be like, wow, this was the standout of the season, never mind the year or anything like that. I can understand people getting some enjoyment out of it. We laughed a few times for sure and whatnot. At the end of the day, I think we could drop it and we wouldn't miss anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we might give it a
I
little
would be
bit
shocked if at the end of the season there was like, wow, it was so deep and meaningful. I'm like, really?
Isn't one of the characters dying?
Well, she said that she's like, I want to have sex before I die, and that's all she said. So I don't know if that means she's actually dying or if she's just being over dramatic, like most teens.
And I'll give credit where credit is due.
And that's not throwing shit on teens. When I was a teen, I was an asshole. So
I'll give credit where credit is due. Lots of times in anime, they don't really reflect what teenagers are really like. They either they like go really hardcore into like
the stereotypical
the stereotypes. Where it feels again somewhat realistic. Where some of the girls are, they're awakening to having these feelings and they're perfectly fine with that. And they're like, I want to explore them. And some of them are like terrified of it. Where they're like, why can my mind not stop thinking about this sort of stuff?
That part made me laugh.
That's a legitimate thing. Like, lots of people go through that issue where they're like, why if I look at a cucumber, does that make me immediately, like, think of things? And that's something that does happen. It's because our hormones are going out of control. We don't have a lot of say in that. And so that's been pretty funny.
Yeah, that scene made me laugh, where the one girl couldn't stop seeing sexual stuff, and she started screaming and going down the street. That made me laugh.
Yeah, and so I think if it leans a little bit more into the comedy as opposed to the drama, it would be at least worth a laugh.
Yeah.
I don't think it knows what it wants to be quite yet.
Yeah, I think it has an idea of what it wants to do. It's just not how it wants to get there.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
We'll see. But I think that's all that needs to be said about that, because it's not much going on in that show. Yeah. But Jeff has some news. I hope he'll change his tune from the last time we talked about it on a podcast.
I never once said anything.
Yes, you did.
I said I wasn't sure if it was going to make top 3, and it likely can, depending on who.
Let's tell him what you're talking about, babe.
So I broke one of my cardinal rules, which is that normally if I'm with the dub, I will stay with the dub throughout it. However, Mob Psycho 100 Season 2 had just finished up episode 12 of the dub, and I was like, no. Like, I'm not stopping at that. I'm not stopping where that stopped me. So I watched the last episode subtitled, just so I could be like, well, I need to see the end of this. Mm-hmm. Definitely excellent. And it is interesting to see where they're going to go from here. The escalation was intense and incredible, mm-hmm. and I kind of like the fact that Mob as a character kind of has that same plot no jutsu that Naruto has, which is that I could talk to you and I'm going to show you why your way of thinking is incorrect.
Right.
But yeah, like the fight sequences have been amazing. The characterizations have been awesome. I love the reflection of our villain in other characters who have already shown up. Mm-hmm. It worries me a slight bit that Mob is so much more powerful than anything else really that's existed, except for, who he just fought in season 2. Mm-hmm. To the point where I get why so many people compare Mob to One Punch Man, because it's getting to that point where it's like, well,
he's Mob, not like One Punch though. Like,
no, but I mean it's a similar sort of idea that they're putting forward now, where literally I don't understand how he would ever lose.
Well, we'll see. You said your fear now is escalation, so we'll see what they do next season.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with it being, again, Avatar: The Last Airbender did a very good job of the fact that Aang as a character, mm-hmm. the being that he is, literally should never lose a fight. Like, mm-hmm. it shouldn't ever... Characters should be so afraid of the Avatar state that they don't even try to fight him. Mm-hmm. That's the reality of the situation. Mob could be that, and there's actually a lot of...
parallels.
There's a lot of parallels in between there, where Mob feels a lot like Aang did, where he's like, I don't really like to fight. I don't mm-hmm. want to have to exert my force on somebody else. I want us to talk it out. I want us to come to some sort of an understanding. Mm-hmm. And they both are... Yeah, like, think about it even more. Like, both of them, when they get super emotional, that's when that power is released. And it's a trope, obviously, at this point. But the whole idea of, like, my maximum power is only when I give in to emotions that don't allow me to control it all. That sort of thing happens a lot.
Naruto.
Video games, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that's not anything abnormal. Mm-hmm. But... just Mob as a character is wonderful. His outlook on life and the fact that he just...
I love him as a character.
And then his brother came around to being an excellent character as well. And the way in which he views his brother and everything, where he's like, I used to think that I wanted to have the same sort of power as him. He's like, mm-hmm. but no, what I really, really love about my brother that I've never had to worry about is that he has to put his all into something. And I've never felt like that in my life.
Yeah, he's incredibly gifted.
Yeah, where he's just like, everything is easy for him. Everything is a cinch. And then he's like, you know what? I want to work towards something the same way that Mob, that it has no problems being eccentric. Mm-hmm.
That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, it melds it so well in with the seriousness of everything that's happening. But then... right as everything is getting super serious, then you get the body improvement club that just charges in, and all they are is like, let's just push our bodies a little bit harder every day. It's like, you guys are awesome.
I love them so much. They're great.
And Reagan had such a good arc in the second season.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, it worries me that the powers are just going to escalate to a point where, like, he's going to throw the moon at somebody. Like, something like that is going to happen. Or he's going to, like, throw somebody to the moon or to the sun. Or who knows what's going to happen in terms of the powers. But in terms of storytelling and characterization, it is one of the best anime of the past 5 years.
Interesting to hear that from you, Jay.
I still don't know if it's as good as Promised Neverland or Dororo this year.
But what did you give it as a score, though, from something where you're like, it's...
I gave it a 9.
Ah, yeah, that's good. Ah, satisfying.
Yeah, but I think I would have to go back and listen to the podcast, but I thought my thing was, I think I'd said, I don't know if it makes the top 3 or maybe even the top 5, given the fact we still have My Hero Academia coming out.
I'll have to find the snippet, but I remember in my mind you said, so far it's been, I can't see it going more than a 7.
But I felt like the second season started off a little slowly, and I didn't like some of what they were doing.
Because there had to be progression, and they had to have their character arcs before all this stuff happened.
And then, but basically from like episode 5 onward, it was like, okay, this is phenomenal. Very good. Very good.
That's awesome. Let's go on to the next one, then. So the next one is To the Abandoned Sacred Beasts. I hate the fucking title of that goddamn anime.
I mean, we could go with the Japanese, but I think there's a lot of case points in that, if I'm not mistaken.
Anywho, the premise of the show is basically that we have a war going on, and then they augment a group of people to kind of be these beasts. And then you suddenly realize that they can't control it and it's taking over them. And then they start going berserk and killing people. And then they decide, well, I shouldn't say anymore because it might spoil some of it. But either way, it comes to a point where some of these characters have to be killed. And the show is about kind of that journey and about what happened to some of these people post-war. It's kind of riding a fine line for me. At times I'm like, it could become garbage, but then at times I'm like, it's pretty good. Then there's times it just goes back and forth for me where I'm like, this is kind of average right now, and then other times it's like, oh, that was really good, and then other times it's like, ooh, we're creeping into bad territory, and then it kind of swerves.
Yeah, it's hard because in some respects it could actually be very deep and very philosophical.
Yeah.
And I think that it knows that, and part of it really wants to do that, but then the other part is like, oh yeah, we're still an anime that is
about
in
monsters.
large part going to be about monsters fighting each other.
Yeah.
But definitely you could get it could get a lot of allegories in between, like the fact that when you go to war you do lose yourself.
Yeah.
You almost have to become a monster in some capacity.
And I wish they'd go for that angle because I love stories about war.
And
as you've heard from
and
other
definitely
podcasts.
Like some of the stories thus far have dipped into that sort of thing where like one of the characters is just like, they tell me that I'm special and I need to go to war, and really all that he cared about was like, I just want to protect
my family.
I want to protect my country. I want to provide, and that is so relatable.
Because that's the thing, that part
lots of people who go to war
got me close, where he was just like, was that all I was good for? And I was like, oh, that could have made me cry if they really dug in. Like,
yeah,
there was like an afterthought for like, okay, we should finish up with it being meaningful. I was like, shit, that could have gotten me.
Yeah, and to their credit, I feel like the creature design has been really good.
Yeah.
And showing people kind of like as half of a creature and like half humanity
person,
and like fighting between it.
Yeah.
They've done a fairly good job of that. Combat has been pretty good for the most part. It feels like it is afraid to get too deep into the melancholy of war. And that's where, like you said, that waffling kind of comes in, where you're like, this could be
deep.
Like, this could be deep and somewhat transformative in a way, but also, I don't know if that hits as well.
It's funny because that one episode, I just want to say where it's just like, you're like, wow, this could be really deep. Then you're like, never mind, this other new person has a shotgun now. Never mind.
I was just like, wow.
And I was like, Ruthen!
And you'd said that it reminds you of, there was an anime last year or the year before, which was all about dragons and like having to like fight the dragon, and we gave it like 3, maybe 4 episodes, and it was just
it was bad in the first episode. That was an easy one to figure out.
And it was like they were trying to juggle too many things, and they didn't settle on what it is that they wanted to look for, and we were worried that was maybe what was going to happen. It doesn't feel like it's going to get to that point.
Yeah.
They're not really going into the science of like, oh, how is it that these people transform? It's more like, no, like this is just the scenario that's playing out, come along for the ride. I think that it is going to be fine, But I think it's going to be one of those anime that we look back on and we're like, damn, that could have been so much better. And, and the problem is, anytime you go really deep when it comes to war and stuff, you lose a part of the audience. Something like Grave of the Fireflies, which I still consider to be one of the greatest films I've ever watched.
So good.
So many people will never watch it because of, like, it deals with war honestly and brutally, and it takes a chunk out of you when you watch it. I've watched it 4 times. Yeah. Every time I have absolutely broken down bawling. Like,
well, that was one of my friends.
I wasn't even like, this is like sad, and I had a couple of tears. Like, I cry almost inconsolably, even the 4th time I watched it. And so I think that if they went that sort of route, I think that it would be very powerful and very poignant, but they would lose part of their audience. And it's always hard for me to remember that beyond anything else, they have to make money. That's the point of it.
Well, I know they have to make money, but I feel like it should be, you want to be something that has, the word I keep running into in my mind is perpetuity, but like something that goes on to be something more than a season. Because I'm sure that's all it'll get.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if it was something more deep and philosophical and something else, I feel like it could have gotten another season. It could have gotten that cult following. It could have gotten, And the anime that Jeff was talking about was Dances with the Dragons. And if I look up the score right now, it's at 5.92, so we weren't wrong.
Definitely. The fact that they spent almost like 2 episodes just dumping lore, and you're like, I don't know if this is important, if it isn't, if you just have nothing else to say. Yeah. This does not have any of those problems. The first episode, we were kind of like, maybe it's...
Are you talking about Dances or this one?
Yeah, we were maybe worried, but it seems like it's...
Because that's the thing.
It's hit its level. That's the thing. It's not... unless it really goes... For me, if it becomes more about, like, what war takes out of you and the individual stories and whatnot, and those are poignant and powerful, it's never going to be really above a 7.
Yeah, that's the thing. It keeps swerving so much that it's hard to tell where, like, obviously it's swerving so much it'll likely never be more than a 7, like Jeff said.
And
but
it's not like it's impossible to do both of those things. You can have a shonen that's about war, but also be really poignant and deep. Well, again, it's almost unfair to always go back to something like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, but Full Metal Alchemist had the amazing, awesome, wonderful fight scenes that you expect from a shonen, and the powers and everything like that, but also at its heart, it was a story about war. And what war takes out of you, and what you're willing to give
That's what I mean. Like,
war.
I don't know at the time, because I didn't jump on the bandwagon right away, if it was right away received well. I'm assuming so, because, as from what anybody's told me.
Well, we haven't watched the original, we've only watched...
Well, I've watched
parts. Some of the original.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've seen parts, I haven't watched all of it.
I watched up to the funeral, which they did better in the original than in Brotherhood, I will say that.
But, like, I'm assuming it was loved right away, but even after the fact, it took a while. It takes things a while to get traction. Baccano, Steins Gate, word of mouth and traction. And I feel like it could be done, like you said. If you want to do monsters and war, fine. Then do it well together. Don't be like, okay, it's about war, it's about revenge, it's about monsters, it's about anger, it's like, just pick 2 at most and then go. Like... You're turning into, like, part Trigun, part Black Lagoon, part this, like, it just...
And they've added a new character, which I think it's a good idea, because our main protagonist kind of got into this whole, like... Not that he's, like, he's emotionless or anything like that, but
his story is very linear.
He's resigned himself to what the future is going to be. And then there's this character comes in and is like, no, like, let's be respectful and ethical about what we're doing. And I'm like, okay, good. Now we have somebody else to bounce off of.
To be the voice of reason.
To be the voice. Not even like the voice of reason. Because a lot of times I think she's...
Empathic. Empathy.
Yeah, being more of the voice of empathy. Whereas our main character, like I said, he is resigned to the fact that this is what
is going to
happen. Basically until he dies. Which is like, well, okay. That leaves you with it's a very one-note character, though. Yes, he still feels bad.
They were giving him initially some depth, and then it's like, poof. I was like, oh. Well, that depth doesn't matter now, because blank happened.
Well, I think that if it's a good anime, they will bring that back with his interactions with this new character. We'll see. it has the potential to be like an 8 to a 9, or the potential maybe to be like a 6 or a 5. Most likely it's going to stick right in the middle at that 7.
Yeah, at most. So, let's move on. So our last, and definitely not least, is Vinland Saga. I had mixed feelings initially, just because I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and then the first episode had a lot of CG, and I was like, but the second and third episode kind of calmed down a fair bit, so that was nice.
Yeah. And I'm still not sure if those were leaks, if that was part of the official release plan. Lots of people
as far as I was told, the 3 were meant to be together.
Okay, because there were some people who were like, I don't understand.
Because some of it was leaked. And then they're just like, just take it.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it went, because somebody tried to explain that to me, because everyone was talking about the leaked versions and blah, blah, blah. So, I think,
all that I heard
if you know the right, I can correct myself in the bottom if I find out later, but if not, you can correct me in the comments.
Yeah. Either way, we've seen the first 3 episodes of this anime, however they were disseminated.
So I think it was unintentional, then intentional.
They were like, well...
well, it's out there, take it.
Here you go. We'll take 2 weeks off and you can just digest it. I don't even know if that's...
I was about to say, I don't think they took 2 weeks off either.
Yeah.
But it's been okay. Obviously, I don't know a lot about Viking history. I know a lot about history, just not that specific one. So there's times when Jeff's like, oh, that's a really well-known name, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So,
Leif Erikson, definitely a huge... If you were going to name off some Vikings, Leif Erikson is one of the very first ones you would name.
So it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Granted, turning him into almost a weird comedic relief character was kind of interesting, but again, I don't know enough about him to know if maybe he was a jokester and that was just his personality.
I don't know. He's very jokey and then serious, so it's hard to tell, but he knows his stuff, from what they portray in the show, so that's good. So far, it's kind of been predictable where things are going for me. Obviously, that's how history is, though. So if they're taking part history, part, fiction, obviously I know where a lot of these things will go. As for that, I think that's my basic qualms about it. Otherwise, it's been good voice acting. Everything's been good. I laugh every time the opener comes on when that kid's running on the dock. It's so bad. It makes me laugh so hard.
Is it the fact? I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure it's a little CG-ish, but I think.
Oh, it's totally CG.
Is it that he's pumping his arms really high up or something?
It's just that he's pumping really hard and it's not matching the speed that he's. It just looks weird. It's just.
It doesn't look. It looks like. Maybe this was the thing. It looks like a kid who watched professional runners and was like, oh, so they move their arms a lot and whatnot, but they don't understand the mechanics, so they're just sitting there pumping away.
I can't even explain without watching it right now, but it's just the camera's moving and then he's moving on the dock, but it's not the amount that he's moving doesn't match how much his movement actually is, so it's weird. A lot of it's CG, so it's just but the characters we've been given so far have been good. Kind of our conditions of the environment they've set up have been good. I know certain things, and I was like, oh yeah, that seems about right for that time period, so to speak. But don't know a lot. Again, not a lot about Vikings. I know certain things about boats and other stuff, but
what I love about it is to think of we have this certain idea in our head about Vikings and about the fact that, and this does a very good job of illustrating what the history books have told us, which is that Vikings definitely, they had pride, and a lot of their pride was based around the idea of we can go in, we can fight, we can conquer, and that dying on the battlefield is a tremendous honor. You don't want to die, at the age of 95 in your bed. You want to die on the battlefield with honor. That's how you go to Valhalla, that sort of thing. And so seeing a character who kind of goes against that vibe and is essentially a pacifist in his later years, and is I thought the most poignant thing that came up earlier, or came up in the anime thus far, is he's talking to his son, and his son is grabbing a weapon, basically stealing one because he wants to go and fight. And his dad grabs it by the blade, and he's like, you take a blade to kill someone. Who are you going to kill? And he looks up to his dad and he's like, my enemies. And his dad just sits there and he's like, you don't have any enemies here.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have enemies. There are people and other people.
Yeah.
It's like, and that is so poignant, and it's such a different sort of mentality to have for somebody who is also an ass-kicking behemoth of a human being.
Big guy.
He's a big guy. He is fast. He is limber. He apparently hasn't fought in like 15 years, but then when he has to, he is just like he's the Viking equivalent of John Wick, maybe.
I don't know about that, but he's pretty cool.
And to see somebody who is obviously so exceptional at this lifestyle, to the point where they were like, yeah, he fought like 15 years ago, and somebody is like, even if he's never fought again in 15 years, he is still absolutely, without a doubt, one of the most dangerous human beings alive. It's like, whoa. And it's a trope that has always existed in anime. Like,
I was about to say, that'd be the way you'd want to be known. It's just like, can we send one person to kill them? No, send an entire army.
Everyone.
That's how I want to go out.
But
be known as a badass.
Yeah. And to see, like, his son exhibits all of the traits of what we think of in Vikings and what everybody else is, where he's like, I want to fight, I want to gain honor, I want to dispose of our enemies and villains and all this sort of stuff. And his dad's just like, that is not really how the world works, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, from what I have seen. And trust me, you've never seen it, but oh my god, am I good at this if I really want to be.
Yeah. And there's parts that are funny. Like the part with his daughter where I laughed when some of them were leaving and all of them were coming to say goodbye to his daughter, and I thought that was funny. So it's so spot on.
They're like, I'll come back with something that I've taken from one of our enemies for you.
No, I'll come back.
Yeah.
Screw that guy. Oh, it was funny. But it's been pretty good. Can't say I can complain other than the CG.
I feel like lots of people are dismissing it, being like, oh, it's Berserk, but with Vikings, because it is willing to be not graphic, but definitely
I was about to say in the sense of having horrible CG. No. I mean, it hasn't shown that it's going to get that gory. Like, I don't feel like that. I feel like, yeah, you have this guy who's obviously killed people before. It shows in the beginning that he's killed people. But obviously he's more of, I wouldn't even say pacifist, but like you said, more on the calmer side and not wanting to kill anybody anymore.
Well, I mean, the very first episode starts off with people being like bisected.
No, I know, but I mean, like, he has no problem punching somebody in the face, but he doesn't want to kill them. You know, he just wants to beat the shit out of certain people.
I think at this point, he just wants peace.
Obviously, that's what he wants.
He's like,
but
I want
he's
to go
not
raise
against
my family.
kicking the shit out of somebody.
Yeah. I think that people gave it a cursory glance and they were like, oh yeah, this just looks like Berserk, but with Vikings. And it's like, no, give it the view that I feel it deserves. I think it's been very good so far.
I can't honestly see a lot of parallels with it and Berserk other than, you know, the color scheme, the bad CG with the newer Berserk, and just the fact that you have somebody who killed people. That's about the only tangents I can see.
I think they're more talking about the kind of, like I said, the free form. Vinland Saga is not afraid to kind of show it. That's what warfare was like at the time. Now now we shoot people and they're dead. Whereas
we shoot people and they're dead.
Whereas with Vikings it was, well, I'm going to chop off your arm. I'm going to chop off your head. I will stab you and run the sword through your body. And that's the thing, is that's historical. Like, where do you think Berserk got its inspiration from? Yeah. Do you not think Guts is kind of based off of, like, a Viking sort of medieval mentality?
I kind of find it odd, though, like you said before, that some people won't, like, watch war stuff. And I don't understand that, because I get some people don't want to see the blood, and that's one thing, but other people that just kind of don't want to acknowledge that we've had that part of history where we've been just terrible and killed other people. It's like, yeah, we have. Like, we've done it lots. Like, it wasn't like one bad time when we had
the last, 30 years is kind of actually very counter to what human history has been like until this point.
Well, there have also been, skirmishes and stuff and wars that have happened, obviously, to this day, but I find it weird when people don't want to acknowledge that. It's the same with the Holocaust, but that's something different. But it's just the fact that I don't see a lot of parallels, and I feel like that's truthful for what it was. A lot of it's known for Vikings being very merciless, as far as I'm told. I don't know a lot of Viking history, but that kind of concept of them being big guys who'd fuck up people pretty easily.
Yeah, and I mean they were warfare with the people who lived, in Britain at the time. So like, it was a warfare culture.
Yeah, and so
it's not any different from the Spartans. The Spartans were all about warfare too. Like, there's always been, culturally speaking, groups that are all about, like...
And even cultured people have stabbed each other. I'm serious, like, there's tons of history of war in, like, the UK, here, like, anywhere. It's always been war. And it's not like we're shooting fucking posies out of guns. You're killing people. I don't know what to say. It's like...
People, oh, you're dead now.
I always think of that, people think of, like, that old school kind of video where, like, the hippies are putting flowers in guns. I'm like, that's not what happens, but...
That ain't gonna stop my revolver.
But, it's always that peaceful mentality. That'd be wonderful, but humanity is too ugly to stop that. But yeah, anyways, totally off topic. Vinland Saga has been pretty good.
This season has been pretty good.
Yeah.
And I feel like this season has really shown that while they were excellent anime in the first 2 seasons of the year, it felt like there was a huge gap. There was a lot 2 or 3 excellent anime, maybe like 1 or 2 that were like, oh, it's fine, and then the rest.
Yeah.
Whereas here, this season feels like it more reflects what 2017 and 2018 were like, where it was like every season had like 6 or 7 anime that were at least pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of these are going to reach the level of,
because
that's amazing, like Promised Neverland or Dororo or Mob.
Because that's not even looking... Sorry, didn't mean to yawn on you. Not even looking at stuff that's continuing. We have Astra will be continuing. Dr. Stone will be continuing. Fire Force, so that's 3. And then Vinland, so that's 4 for sure. And the other ones are maybes. Or no's. We'll see. So there's at least 4 this time for a definite. So that gives us a little more padding this season, whereas the other ones have had a little more time to do other things. Yeah. I mean, it's even last podcast, we're like, we know of like 2 for sure, and the rest we don't know. So now we know.
Yeah, definitely last season we got to actually catch up on some stuff. We got to watch some new stuff. When things came out, like Agretsuko, I done part of the 2nd season. You've completed the 2nd season. Mm-hmm. We blasted through all of Fairy Tail to the point where we're at season 3 now, and that was like within the last couple of seasons. So that, I think, shows you what anime was like for 2019 until we got to the season where it was like, we've got like 3 excellent ones, and then the rest is just other time that we can take.
So yeah, we'll have to let you in on what happens. We'll have to either have a mid one or a final one, and we'll let you know how it goes. Let us know what you're watching and what you're enjoying. But for now, that'll be all from us. So thank you, Jeff, for joining me.
Oh, always.
And thank you for joining us. And until next time, we'll see you later.